All right, we're going to be talking about simplifying expressions today, how to simplify an expression. So yesterday we talked about evaluating an expression, but now what do we do if we've got multiple parts to an expression? And one of those things that we need to learn about with simplifying is using the distributive property. That's one process to simplify. So if I were to talk to you about the distributive property right now, raise your hand and let me know how many of you remember what distributive property entails. Like, what does that mean? Only a couple? All right, Kristen, what does it mean? Like, what operation are we using with distributive property? Do you remember? If I've got it like this, what operation is happening when I distribute? Mia? Multiplication. Very good. Okay, so distributive property, it's just a way of stating that you're distributing multiplication to every component that's inside of these parentheses. Okay? So here we've got 4 that's being multiplied not only to the x, but it's also being multiplied to the 2. So 4 times x is just going to give me what? 4x. And then we also have 4 times a positive 2. Notice that I'm circling, I'm including that plus sign with it, because that's indicating to me what type of value it is. Because it's an addition problem, that 2 is represented as a positive number. If it was a subtraction problem, then that would be representing a negative number. So I'm making sure that I'm including the operation here with it. So it's being 4 times a positive 2. What's 4 times a positive 2 going to give me? 8. Positive or negative? Positive. So again, I want to indicate that it is a positive 8. So that way when I write this side by side as a final answer, I know that it's 4x plus 8, and I'm done. Now the reason that I'm done is because I don't know what x is. And if I don't know what value x is, then I can't combine it with anything else. I cannot combine it with that 8 because I don't know what x is equal to yet. We're going to get there later. Not today, but we'll get there later. Let's try another one. By 5 times the quantity of 3x minus 6y. Again, we are using that distributive property to be able to go ahead and multiply the 5 to each component that's inside of those parentheses. So that's going to be 5 that we're multiplying with 3x. What's 5 times 3x? 15x. Good. And then we're going to multiply 5 times negative 6y. We have to include that minus sign that's in front of it. Have to include that. It is indicating the type of integer that it now is. So it's 5 times a negative 6y. What is 5 times negative 6y going to give us? Negative 30y. Make sure you raise your hands because some people are raising their hands and waiting patiently to answer, and you guys are shouting it over. Okay? Okay, so now all we have to do is piece that together. Can I do 15x minus 30y?
No.
Why not? Jalen, thank you for raising your hand. It has to be the same letter or variable, right? It has to be in the same term. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how to know when you can combine things together and when you don't, based off of it being what's called like terms. Again, you probably saw some stuff about it. It might be a little bit of a review for you. Okay? Now, I know there's still room on this page, but I want to go ahead and flip it. I want to be done with distributive property and getting into the actual just simplifying expressions with combinations. So go ahead and flip to 30. All right, get this copied down. We've got like terms. Like terms have the same variable, raised to the same power. So like Jalen just said, same letter. That's what they mean by same variable. It has to both be an X or both be a Y. But not only that, it has to be raised to the exact same exponent, the same power. So X and X to the second power are not like terms. They cannot be combined together. Just the same as X and Y cannot be combined together. You have to have exact same letter and exact same exponent. And if there isn't an exponent written, then the exponent is a 1. Remember, we don't have to write the ones when it's exponents or coefficients. It's not necessary to write those. Okay. A constant constants are also like terms. That can be combined. Okay, so a constant is just that number. It's a positive number or a negative number, but they can also be combined together. They just can't be combined with a variable. But one constant can be combined with another constant. You need something? Are you sure? Okay. One constant can be combined with another constant. And one of the things, like I just said before with that distributive property, you always want to make sure that you include the operation in front of the term. So always include the operation in front of the term. If it's a plus sign in front of it, it makes it a positive term. If there's a minus sign in front of it, it makes it a negative term. And to make it easier when you're working the problems out, the best thing that you can do is rewrite. So if you rewrite your problems so that like terms are side by side, it makes it a lot easier to see what it is that you're combining together and what you're not. So again, rewrite the problem with like terms side by side. So let's go ahead and take a look at a problem. So let's say we have 10x plus 6 minus 3x plus 9. 10x plus 6 minus 3x plus 9. So we want to identify what our like terms are going to be. Always start from left to the right. Always start on the left side and work your way to the right. So the very first term that I see is a 10x. So I'm going to go ahead and put a box around my 10x. And then I'm going to look through the rest of the problem and see, okay, do I have any terms that are like it? Mackenzie, are there any terms that are like 10x? Not just 3x, but always include the operation in front of it. So what would that make it? Positive or negative? Negative. So it's a negative 3x that we're going to be making it. Again, you have to include the operation in front of it. It's not just a 3x, it's now a negative 3x. So when I rewrite it, because I want to write it side by side, I'm going to put 10x and that negative 3x side by side. So now the expression is 10x minus 3x. What is 10x minus 3x going to give us, Jalen? 7x. Very good. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to circle my next term, which is that positive 6. Do I have anything in here that is like the positive 6? Kingston? Positive 9. So I have a positive 6 that I'm now combining with a positive 9. What is a positive 6 plus 9 going to give us, Joel? Positive 15. Can I combine 7x and 15 together? No. They are not like terms. They are not like terms, therefore you cannot combine them together, but you can go ahead and just write them side by side. 7x plus 15, and that is your simplified expression. It's kind of like when you have a really, really long story and you just want to give the short version of it, right? When people are, well, what's going on? It's a long story. Okay, give me the cliff notes. Just give me the brief points. That's kind of like what this is. This is the long story. Let's go ahead and give the short version of it. Okay, you're simplifying it down, cutting out what's not necessary, and just giving the important part. Yeah. Yeah, if we happen to know what x was equal to, that's when you could go ahead and do the substitution, multiply it by 7, and then add the 15 later. Soon, in the next week or two, we're going to get to where we don't know what x is equal to, but we know what 7x plus 15 is equal to. So then we would solve for x by doing what we call inverse operations. JD?
Can you simplify that?
I'm glad you asked, because everybody always asks that question every year. I know that on your calculators, a lot of you are probably going to see that, hey, there's some letters here. Why can't I just type this in? So we just saw that the expression is 7x plus 15. So if we were to type this in, if I type 10, and then I hit my little variable button, I hit x, so now it says 10x, then I put plus 6, and then I put minus 3, and then hit the variable button for the x, so now it's minus 3x, and then what was my last part? Plus 9. And I hit enter. Look what it gives me. It only gives me 15. So the only thing that the calculator did was combine the constants together. It completely ignored the variables. It ignored the variables because it won't compute that for you. So no matter what, even though there are variables here, you cannot use this. You cannot use this calculator to simplify these expressions. It will not do it for you. All it's going to do is say, well, hey, we're ignoring this part and we're going to ignore this part, and it's only going to focus on those constants, and it's going to spit out that answer every time. So you want to make sure that you understand how to combine your like terms, because your calculator will not do it for you. You can say, hey, well, I know I've got 10x and a negative 3x, so what's 10 and negative 3 combined together? It'll tell you it's 7 when you type in 10 minus 3. But you have to know that you've got to put that x with it, okay? Thank you for asking that question. All right, I want you guys to try one more with me, and then you're going to do some on your own. So if we've got 6n, because your variables are not always x's, 6n minus 7n minus 4 plus n plus 2n. 6n minus 7n minus 4 plus n plus 2n. It's long, right? It's the long story. Let's shorten the story down to the important part. So start with the very first term. Our first term is 6n. Let's go through the rest of the problem and find the like terms that are going to belong with it. What's the first like term that we see, Mia? Negative 7n. Thank you for remembering to put the minus sign with it. What's the next term that's possibly there with it? Trevor? N. And here's the thing. N doesn't have a number with it. Who can recall what exists there? Abigail? A 1. It's got an imaginary 1 right in the front. So if you want to go ahead and put that there's a 1 there, just so that you remember that there is a number, by all means, please do so. Any more like terms that go along with this? EJ? 2n, and it's a positive 2n. Don't forget that it's positive. So all of these are our systems of like terms. We can go ahead and write them side by side. So I have 6n minus 7n plus 1n plus 2n. Let's simplify that all down. What is 6n minus 7n plus 1n plus 2n going to give us, Kingston? 2n. All of this together is going to give us 2n. Okay, so now I need to go back up to the problem. Do I have anything left in the problem? The negative 4. Does it have any like terms with it? No. So negative 4 is all out here on its lonesome. Has nothing to combine with it, nothing to add, nothing to take away. So my final answer, piecing the 2n and the negative 4 together, you just get 2n minus 4, and that's your simplified story, your simplified expression. Well, 6n minus 7n is negative 1n. Negative 1 plus a positive 1n is going to be 0n. And then 0n plus 2n is 2n. Okay, but when in doubt, you can always do 6 minus 7 plus 1 plus 2 in your calculator, and then attach your n at the end of it. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and give you guys a couple of them to try on your own for some house points. Get these copied down. It's in front of the 7. So you combine the negative 7 and the positive 4 together. So it's negative 7 plus. Good job doing that in your head. Well, minus 3. So if it's a negative 3, you just put minus 3. Those aren't like terms. Remember, like terms have to have the same variable. Yep. The sign doesn't group it. It's the variable or lack of variable that groups it. Yep. So those two can be combined together, and then these two, because they don't have a variable, they can be combined together. Minus 8. Mohammed, honey, I don't know why you're over there.
I'm not sure.
Okay. So you have 3x minus 6x, so 3 minus 6 is not negative 6. What's 3 minus 6? Which is negative 3x. Then you have 2 minus 10. Positive 2 minus 10. We're almost done. The notes are done. You can combine these together. So it's negative 7 plus 4. So then you put minus 3 here. All right. Number 2. Who can tell me what did they get for their expression? Let's see here. Somebody who has not answered yet. No, but you've been. Jillian. What?
I'm just kidding.
No, don't kid. I want to hear. What did you get for number 2 as your simplified expression? Huh? You're too nervous that you're going to get it wrong? Aww. Bryant?
20 was.
Oh. Yeah? 20y. And then subtracting 3, so minus 3. Yeah. Who's your house? Ravenclaw? Okay. So 20y minus 3. 20y minus 3 should be the correct answer. Number 3. Trevor. Minus 8. That's fine. Yeah, negative 3x minus 8. Negative 3x minus 8. House? About time. Woo. All right. And then the last one, number 4. What do we have for problem 4? Nobody in my back row is answering. Okay, Jalen, why don't you answer it? For number 4. Okay, so real close. It's not negative 6m. It should just be 6m, positive 6m, but very close. I'll give it to you. So 6m minus 8 and then plus 6n. Okay, and what house are you, Jalen? Ravenclaw. All right. Okay, so let's go over this real quickly. Taking a look here for problem number 2. Especially those of you who are not wanting to volunteer or raise your hands. Make sure you're paying close attention. 9y and a positive 11y. We compare those together. They are like terms. 9 plus 11 will give us 20, so that's 20y. Then you've got a negative 7 plus 4, which is going to give you a negative 3. So then when you pair it together, it's 20y minus 3 as your final answer. 20y minus 3. Number 3, 3x and a negative 6x. Please don't talk over me. Evelyn, 3x minus the 6x is going to give you a negative 3x. Then you've got a positive 2 and a negative 10. That's going to give you a negative 8. When you piece the whole thing together, that's going to be negative 3x minus 8 as your final answer. For our last one, 8m and a negative 2m. So it's 8m minus 2m, and that gives us 6m positive. Then you've got a positive 3 and a negative 11. So 3 minus 11 is a negative 8. And then you've got this extra one here, 6n. And it doesn't belong with anything. It's just a positive 6n. So when you piece the whole thing together, most of the time when you guys piece it together, you're going to go, okay, so here 6m minus 8 plus 6n. And that's perfectly fine. But you need to be aware that if it's a multiple choice, most likely it's going to put it to where it's in alphabetical order. 6m plus 6n minus 8. That's the more appropriate order of how it's going to be. Okay? Go ahead and pack up.